All right, the divisional round is finally over. We're back and looking at a conference round that's pretty exciting. We're a Lamar Jackson loss away from a Taylor Swift Super Bowl. So I think America is in Baltimore this week.
Lamar's is America's like wonder child right now. We need him.
Even the people who don't like running quarterbacks really like him right now. So
True.
let's get right into it. Josh, how you doing and how you feeling about the Chiefs versus Bills game?
You know, I think that we both had picked the Bills to win. And I think that I undersold just how depleted this Bills team is because they have like I remember seeing and I knew it ahead of time and it probably was bias on my part. But but yeah, like they just had no defensive players, like relying on AJ Klein and in pass coverage against Travis Kelsey. Klein is like a career average graded 46, I think. Should not be starting on an NFL field. So, I mean, not only that, like Rasul Douglas wasn't really playing. I think he got injured. You don't have Tre'Davious White right now because he's been out all season. Like they had no corners either. Like it makes me question is this Chiefs offense actually back? Or did they just get incredibly lucky in facing Miami, who signed like Bruce Irvin, who I honestly forgot was signed and who I brought up about being super old and not very good. Melvin Ingram, like 35-year-old pass rushers, and then playing the Bills, who had like no linebackers or cornerbacks. So I don't know. What did you think of the game?
I mean, it's unfortunate to see for sure. Obviously, you look at it and you're just sad more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
It felt like a year that the Bills were finally going to have a good contending team. The Chiefs were down, which meant it was really good for the Bills. But then the Bills went down, and it feels like they took over the Ravens spot because typically the Ravens start to fall apart by the end of the year with injuries.
Yeah.
But this year it was the Bills, which is pretty unfortunate. Von Miller got hurt early in the season, then came back and really just never found himself. Um, AJ and Panessa and Greg Rousseau were good on the edges. So it wasn't just like Miami, but like you said, they were missing a lot of corners. They were really just devastated in the linebacker core. Milano was out from like week 1 or something. Like
Yeah.
this team isn't the same team that they had going into the season
Like
by a
on
lot.
Yeah, on paper going into the season, like so many of those starters are gone. Not trying to take away from what the Chiefs did. Like they were really impressive. I think they only got stopped once on offense. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this week will be really interesting to see if the Chiefs offense is legit right now or they were just getting lucky.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be the week where they finally get slow cooked into oblivion
Me
because you're
too.
finally playing a team that has a healthy box, has a healthy secondary, which is a miracle to say. It's the Ravens. They don't normally do that.
Yeah.
But it's finally time for us to really see what the Chiefs are made of. And I don't think they have it, but we've been saying that for 2 weeks. So I guess we'll just
Yeah.
see. But, as much as the Chiefs did do well and they executed their plays, they were a drop touchdown from Diggs and a missed field goal from Tyler Bass away from losing by like 7 points, 10 points.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really like the offense was back. It was more, if anything, you're saying the defense is back
Yeah.
because the defense is really good and it was really good during the offseason or the regular season. But I don't see this defense being able to stop the Ravens offense. And I really don't see the Ravens defense weakening just because Patrick Mahomes is around. They
Yeah.
kind of have routinely beaten elite quarterbacks by the end of the season.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean,
Honestly, can't say anything more for this game. From
no,
this game. Yeah, I agree. Josh Allen was good, but I mean, you can't win a game by yourself.
no. And
Yeah.
that rolls right into the next game, the Ravens game, because now we're looking at their opponent. And the Ravens are just doing the Ravens. I've never seen a team so nonchalantly better than you. Like the
Yeah.
Patriots were better than you, but in a scary way. The Ravens are better than you and like just having fun.
Yeah. No,
It's very scary to see.
they came into halftime 10-10 and like almost like when it came out of halftime, we're like, guys, we're just better than them. What are we doing? And absolutely blew stuff out of the water. Now there was a big special teams play that led to 7 points that it probably should have been 10-3. Taking away that lucky play, but even still 10-3 is a pretty close game
Mhm.
to end up being like, what was it, 34-10?
Yeah, it got bad.
Yeah, it got really bad. um Yeah, I mean the Ravens are so good, and my takeaway this whole season has been when Lamar is on, there is literally nothing that can stop him.
Yeah. And
Literally
what's crazy
nothing.
is we're saying Lamar's on. All he had to do, I mean, all he had to do, he ended up having like 250 total yards, but he threw for only 152 yards. Like
Yeah,
they can win however they need to. And that's what's so good about
yeah,
them. Now that Greg Roman's gone, they can pass the ball. They are a threat in the air. You do have to
yeah.
worry about it. Zay Flowers is good enough to where you do have to worry about Zay Flowers. Like
They have
now
a
all of a sudden
low-key
Lamar's having 100
underrated
yards.
receiver core too.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
Bateman has not been terrible.
yeah.
Like he's like in my opinion the perfect three.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
then Odell obviously is not. I call Odell the one because they mostly plays in the slot, pretty sure. Um, but overall, they're good enough for having Lamar at quarterback to to uh to go deep enough. Like it's not like the Chiefs receivers where I seriously question their ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just truly feels like whatever um, Baltimore does, they're going to be good
Hmm.
because they can beat you running, they can beat you passing. And just to update you on that, it is like about a third of Zay's snaps are in the slot, and then the other 2/3 are
Really?
wide. Yeah, he's a
Oh,
little guy, but
wow.
he plays wide because he gets a lot of
Wow, I
screens and
didn't
stuff
know
out
that.
there.
Anyway,
Yeah,
well, I stand corrected then. But either way, Zay is really good. I still don't know if he's like a one in the NFL. Um, but he's like a 1B, which I think
yeah,
they kind of have like a group of like 1B, 2As. That's like good enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have Isaiah Likely taking over perfectly for Mark Andrews. Like
Likely is good. Yeah.
this Ravens team is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and they just are slow cooking their opponents. It's
Yeah.
impressive, and I'm excited to see what they can do against the Chiefs because it's like we were saying before we started recording. The Chiefs kind of feel like the Eagles of last year, where they played a lot of bad teams that just happened to make the playoffs. Like
Hmm.
their records were good, but watching the film or just watching a game, you don't get that feeling that they're good.
Yeah.
Miami didn't give you the feeling they were good. The Bills
No.
did not play very well. Like they played a lot of very injured defenses. And
Yeah.
granted, you can't penalize them for that necessarily because that's what any team that's good should do is win against a bad team that's playing backups.
Yeah.
So they're doing everything they can, but they aren't doing what the Chiefs used to do, where they're dropping a lot of points over those teams early and putting them out. Now
Yeah.
all of a sudden these games are close. These games aren't really dominant. And it's about the other team beating themselves. Like nobody's talking about how the Chiefs won the game. They're talking about how the Bills lost the game.
100% agreed. Yeah.
And I don't think the Ravens are going to lose themselves a game. They
No.
played too many good teams too well and playing just too good of football. And they're fresher.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they played
Fresher at
one game.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they honestly played like two-thirds of a game last week.
Right.
Like and especially I mean they did whatever they wanted running the ball against a Houston running rushing defense that was supposed to be like that's their best part of their defense too. So it's like if you're going against defenses and humiliating them at what they do good, and you're good at passing the ball too in a passing league nowadays. That was really the biggest thing for the Ravens in the past was that their passing offense was so inconsistent
That's
in
why Greg
past
Roman
years.
got fired. He
Yeah,
couldn't make a single passing concept to save his life. All of a sudden, you
yeah,
put anyone in there. You can put a Madden guy in there, and all of a sudden, you'd be good
yeah,
because you're
true.
passing the ball.
Yeah,
And look, you don't have to pass the ball, but now that you can, everyone has to be honest against the
passing the
run.
ball. People think that running the ball opens up for the pass, but really it's passing the ball that opens up for the run.
Now all of a sudden, you got Lamar rushing for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a running back
Yeah,
stat line.
yeah,
And by the way, he's also a 2 touchdown quarterback who threw zero
mhm,
interceptions. Like, oh,
mhm.
okay, this is a good team.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And now we kind of go to the opposite in the NFC. It feels
Yeah,
like the Ravens are this unstoppable force and they have just everything going their way. And then we look at the NFC and all four teams this weekend, and especially the two that won,
there's
it
just
doesn't seem like they're what they are.
there's yeah, each of these teams that won have just like they're not like clearly better on the field than other teams most of the time. And
Yeah.
I'm a Niners fan, but No, it's true. And I was at that game too. That was insane. I've never been to a playoff game. The entire crowd in the third quarter was like holding like desperate. The guy behind me who swore after every play was like, "We need an interception. We need an interception," before Dre Green lost first one, and then like on the blocked field or just the missed field goal, you're just like, "We need an a miss. We need an a miss." Like, and everything went the Niners' way. Um, but it didn't feel like an outright. Obviously, we barely won. It was a last minute touchdown, but it did not feel as dominant as it probably should have on paper looked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers were the one seed coming into the season. They were seen as one of the best teams. Going into the playoffs, they seemed like one of the best teams. And they just seem a little shaky. They're not fully there. Their secondary isn't what it was last year. Like, they definitely have seen a little bit of struggling on defense compared to last year where they were shutting it down. And that's why defense is so hard to consistently put out. But they do seem beatable.
They definitely
And
do.
like all it takes is one of those teams.
I'll say this. Our advanced metrics, obviously we're not good at pass coverage. You know that. But if you actually look into like our rush defense, it's not actually good. When
Just
you look
nobody
at
runs the
total
ball.
yards, when you look, yeah, it's just no one runs the ball because we're usually ahead. So like
Yeah.
total rushing yards looks good. When you look at like on a play-by-play basis, we're not even necessarily really good at stopping the run either. If like I'm really, really worried about this Lions team just coming in and running the ball all over us because like Green Bay did it. I mean, they were spamming like jet sweep. Aaron Jones was like every other play going for 40 yards.
Yeah. And it's Aaron Jones. He wasn't even good this year.
No, he wasn't. I mean, he was better. I'll give him that. He was better like the last half of the year once he
That's
got
because
back from
Jordan Love
injury.
figured out he could throw.
But yeah, if Jordan Love didn't I want to say I don't want to say choke because like the last pick, like I don't blame him for it. His team is he has got like 50 seconds left. You kind of do have to force some stuff. Obviously, it wasn't a good play,
Mhm.
but
I mean, that's what happens when you're down to a team that's in the end on paper better than you. And you have
yeah,
a rookie quarterback essentially. You
he's
can't expect
basically
him
a
to
rookie.
be able to make a 50-second game winning drive.
Yeah, but like we said, I mean, the Packers go in there and they stun the Niners, regardless of if they won or not. Like they put on a show, and you can't help but feel great as a Packers fan for next year with pretty much the entire team returning. Um, I don't know what David Bakhtiari's if he's still.
You got to just draft to assume
Yeah.
he's hurt.
And Aaron Jones I think is returning too, but he's like 30 years old. But yeah. Anyway, to the team that you've called shaky for multiple weeks, the Lions. What did you think of the Lions Bucks game?
I mean, the Buccaneers were outmatched. They were outmatched the first round and they still won
Yeah.
from the same way. And
Yeah.
you have to go in when you're at home, you have such a passionate fan base. You have all the momentum on your side. Like you are having such a romantic season. The fact that you can't go out there and pretty quickly make the game over says a lot. And I'm pretty sure it was like 23-31. So it wasn't like it was super close,
Yeah.
but it's not like you won by 2 touchdowns. Like this game was closer than it should have been, considering as much as I love Baker Mayfield, the Baker Mayfield led Buccaneers, who everyone thought was going to be competing for Caleb Williams, took you to school a little bit. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, this game is
It was a close game.
kind of
I mean,
close. Yeah.
Baker threw some fourth quarter interceptions that had the first one not been there, it would have been. I think he was going to tie it or it was going to be within one score. But um, obviously, I'm a Niners fan and I'm a little biased. But the I think the Bucks were a much worse team than the Packers. So
Yes.
like I expected the Lions to absolutely dominate, and they did win, but they didn't like dominate as much as I expected them to.
No. And I think that's where the big difference is we're seeing a team that is good and is favored to win the Super Bowl, and the Ravens go in against a team that's kind of similar to the Green Bay Packers, where they're just red hot. They're
Yeah.
really good. They're young and they're just having
They
a
got a
great
young
time.
quarterback, young
Yeah, like
not a young coach, but like a good
slinger.
they got a good offensive coordinator slash coach who
Mm-hmm.
runs a very similar scheme.
And then
And
all of a sudden, you're like,
yeah,
something seems different. One team went in there and could pull Lamar by the end of it. And
yeah,
one team had to fight for their dear life and get an interception against a rookie quarterback, essentially, to stop the game.
yeah,
And the Lions are the same way. Both of those NFC teams had the opportunity to make a statement out of their win, and neither team did. And it wasn't like they took their foot off the gas. It was they weren't they weren't dominant at all.
Yeah.
And if you're a team like the Ravens, where you're going to walk into a Super Bowl feeling confident, if you do, do what everyone expects you to do and win this week,
Yeah.
this like you're in a very different situation because it's the 49ers or the Lions. Either one could win this game. Either one could have it's probably going to be a close game. So you don't get your statement win ever. You never had your statement win. The
Yeah.
49ers, this was their only chance to get their statement win, and they didn't get it. And that was against a 7 seed. And
Yeah.
then the Lions, they had their first home game in like 32 years. And they were up by only 2 points and kind of got lucky that the Rams didn't score once out of their like 3 red zone appearances.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. In that first round. Yeah.
yeah, it's just you had multiple opportunities as the Lions, and you had your big opportunity here as the 49ers to show, hey, we're better than what everyone thinks. We're kind of ready to go, especially when you have the bye. Like the
Yeah.
49ers
With
really
the
know it's good.
bye. Yeah. I will say, like, people are using, like, oh, Purdy was rusty. Oh, he, like, to be fair, he historically doesn't play well in the rain. And it was raining a little bit. I was there. It was not really raining. It was drizzling. I barely felt it on me. Except in the fourth quarter, when the Packers got back on offense, it actually did come down the hardest of the night. And it
God is on
was
the
at that
49ers
point
side.
the crowd knew. But yeah, I don't know. They just didn't dominate the way that a team, even if they go to the Super Bowl, they absolutely should not be favored against the Ravens. And I don't know if they win, even if they win this game. I don't know if they win the Super Bowl.
But I mean, if you can make a statement win in this NFC conference game,
Yeah, now that's different. If the
yeah,
Niners, they're favored by 7. If they go out and cover the spread, that is very different. But especially when you have the context of the Packers were like one of the hottest teams, same with the Texans coming into the playoffs and in the first round of the playoffs too.
yep.
If you can make a statement, like, that's something that you do have to do. I know you probably aren't on a lot of like Niners Twitter
No,
or
I'm not on
Instagram, but
Twitter.
there's a lot of buzz, not from Niners fans, but from Niners players themselves about because a lot of people are just like disrespecting Purdy right now after like one bad game. Um
Happens.
and like don't get me wrong, I don't think Purdy's MVP, but like people are calling him like the 20th best quarterback in the league. I still think he's the top 12 quarterback.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, look at his PFF grade, play by play. He's been 88 grade. That's been
Yeah.
extremely, like, that's an elite grade. And I don't think a lot of the criticism is founded in um actual film analysis,
No.
more in just like vibes.
Hmm.
Again, not saying he's like a top 3 QB or anything, but he's definitely a lot better than what people are making out to be.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, you want to get into the games for this week? Who are you choosing? Let's start with the Lions game. Just outright, who do you
Okay.
think's going to win?
49ers. I think if you have two teams that are not having a good time, you have two teams that are struggling to find themselves again, who's better? It's the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. I
Although
agree.
I will say the 49ers, you do think of them as a very stout run defense. And
Not.
you think of the Detroit Lions as a very stout running offense. Well, the 49ers are tied for 15th in the NFL in rush
Mhm.
yards per attempt.
Yep.
They're giving up 4.2. So
Yep.
not very good. They're tied with Dallas, Jacksonville, Vegas, Cleveland. Not a great company. Like Vegas turned it around at the end of the season. Cleveland was another one of those teams that you just had to pass against, kind of. So I'm going to take the 49ers, even though this is once again a game that both teams can win because nobody's made their statement of, hey, I'm here to go to the Super Bowl. Right?
Yeah.
The Lions feel so romantic because they aren't winning in a dominant way. If they were being a dominant team, nobody would be saying, oh man, it's so great what the Lions are doing. They just be like, the Lions are good. They're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I feel like they haven't shown any sort of actual strength. They've barely beat two teams that were very fringy playoff teams. Let's be honest. Both teams had an opportunity in week 18 to miss the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
think I think that the Rams are way better than the Bucks, but
yes.
but
But you
no,
also
I
only had
100%
like a
agree. I worry with the Lions that, I mean, if you look at their pass defense. And the Niners get a reputation for being a great running team, which they are, but they've been winning a lot of games because of Purdy and the pass offense. They're giving up like 300-yard games. They gave up like 2 in the last couple of games to Nick Mullins.
Yeah,
And then
Detroit is second worst in passing yards per game.
Yeah, and I
Only
think,
only behind Washington.
and I think I think that's the key, because every time the Niners have lost, it's kind of been because, like, not every time, but like in recent memory, like we did get destroyed on running wise, but also Love for the first 3 quarters was passing amazingly against us. And when we played the Ravens, we lost because their pass defense was really good. They forced, I will say, the first 2 interceptions were very fluky tip balls, but they still forced them.
And they still got 2 more.
And putting our offense in a hole really makes us play very differently. And I'm not sure the Lions defense is good enough to put us in a hole. Yeah.
And the Lions offense isn't either. They're going to do something stupid in the beginning of the game because that's just how the Lions play.
Yeah.
And you can't make those mistakes against teams that are really good.
Yeah.
And now's their time to play a really good team.
Yeah. What are you picking for the spread, though? This is a little different than what we've done. San Francisco's favored by 7. Are you taking San Francisco to cover? That would mean, like, basically winning by 10 points, probably. Very rarely do you win by 8.
Yeah. I would not.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I see why, and I understand why you will, and you'll get to that. But the Lions are a team that when they lose they break their fans' hearts.
Yeah.
They don't get dominated to where you can turn off the TV and go play some football.
That's true.
You're glued to your TV until 0-0 and you're crying. Like, you're going to want to punch your TV when the Lions lose, because they are not going to lose in a normal way. They're going to go all the way down to the end.
No, they will lose last minute.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fumble by Jared Goff or something.
Yeah.
Like, this game's going to be closer than anyone would have ever anticipated, because, the Lions are great, but the 49ers are supposed to be this amazing team. But I don't see that happening, and I see whoever wins, field goal.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, I did some convincing myself talking about the analytics, but honestly, I'm going to take the Lions to cover the spread. I can't, even partly I was going to initially take the Niners because I'm a Niners fan, but 7 is so much. 7 is, and it's not even 6.5. Like, it doesn't include winning by a touchdown, which I think the range of outcomes on the far end is winning by a touchdown for the Niners. That doesn't even include, if you take the Niners, they have to win by more than a touchdown. So if it was 6.5, I think I might take the Niners. But at 7, I'll take the Lions. They're good at keeping close games. I don't think that this Niners defense is going to be good enough to consistently stop the Lions enough to be up by more than a touchdown. So yeah, I'm going to take the Lions.
Yeah. And then,
it's hard for me to do, but
I mean, it's only the spread,
Yeah, that's true. I'm not picking the Lions to win, but
then the next one, Ravens -3.5. I mean, I think we've made our opinion clear on what the Ravens are doing right now.
The Ravens, I'll say this. I don't think I said this earlier, but I put it in the show doc. The Ravens are such a good team on defense too. Like, they don't necessarily have like a Nick Bosa or a Fred Warner or Aiden Hutchinson, or like, I'm just bringing those 2 up because those are the teams we were talking about. Even like a Chris Jones, they don't have like an absolute star like that. I mean, you could call Kyle Hamilton great. He's underrated, but no one on that defense is a legit star, but they don't have a single hole on that defense.
Everybody's amazing, but nobody's like superstar.
Yeah, and then on offense, you got 3 pretty solid receivers. You got a really good tight end. You got a great quarterback who right now is rushing and passing as efficient as anyone in the league. And you have a really good offensive line. So, like, where are the Chiefs going to beat them? That's my question. I don't know. And that's why I would pick the Ravens, not only to win, but cover the spread too. And 3.5 isn't that much. You're just saying win by, the difference is one team gets a touchdown, one team gets a field goal, and you win by 4. It's not that much. Like, do I think, like, that's not that big a difference, right? Whereas I do think the talent difference between them is pretty big. And I don't necessarily think that there's a significant coaching difference between the 2 teams either.
Yeah. it does feel like a game where it's the Ravens are probably, if they win, they're going to win by a lot.
Yeah.
I get it. Patrick Mahomes does this Patrick Mahomes thing, but I think that's going to end up more in you're down by at least a touchdown. You need a touchdown to win the game, and then something happens and you don't. You get like a MVS drop.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney does something stupid again. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be this, oh my God, like the Ravens got down and Justin Tucker made a 56-yard field goal to tie the game or like win it in the very
Yeah.
end. This is a game where someone's going to win.
Yeah, I agree. Like if Kansas City needs to, like you're saying, like MVS can't drop a pass. Like you can't be making mistakes that this Chiefs offense, for the most part, it's the offense has been making all year long. If you want to win this game, you got to be perfect. And Mahomes is extremely consistent in the postseason, but I don't trust the team as a whole.
Yeah.
Now we'll get into the mock draft. Tyler's cooked up something great from his mock draft Monday
Oh,
from
yeah.
2 days ago, but I'm excited to hear it because I'm not too deep into my rookie research yet, so
You
excited
know
to
me.
see.
I'm always deep in my rookie research.
Yeah. So to start, what are you doing with Justin Fields? What is the future in Chicago?
I mean, you know how I feel about Fields. If I'm Matt Eberflus, my job is relying on Justin Fields right now, and I don't like that. Yeah, I'm probably feeling handcuffed. There's only so much passing you can really do. And
Yeah.
like you say too, there's the benefit of resetting that quarterback contract.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're looking at a draft with no real winner. You got Caleb Williams there. It's kind of hard to miss with Caleb Williams. You can take a
Yeah.
guy who's going to make you look really good as a GM, look really good as a coach. You're going to have a wide receiver for him because we saw Moore's really good. And you're just going to be able to actually build a team now because you have
Mm-hmm.
some offensive line semblance. You're going to get more wide receiver help in the draft. That's undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
The wide receiver class in free agency isn't that great. So everyone's going to look for the draft.
I think it is. I think a lot of the players in free agency, like there's some good players, like Higgins is in free agency, Marquise Brown is, Michael Pittman is, but I
Mike
think a lot
Evans.
of them are going to re-signed. And I don't think like legit. I don't know about. We'll see about Higgins because I don't know what the Bengals are going to do. But anyway, go on. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we're taking Caleb Williams at 1.
yeah.
I don't think
I
that's too much of a surprise, but
As far as team building goes, I 100% agree. The rookie contract really is the biggest thing for me. I do think Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than Fields, but like, can you justify paying Fields like $40 million a year? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so as a result, instead of paying him 40 million, you're paying Caleb Williams. I don't know exactly what the first round.
it would be probably around 9. It's going
Yeah,
up a
that's
lot, but
it's
everyone's about like
still like
nine and a
9
half.
million if you get a legit starter is absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
Anyway,
something
yeah.
that is crucial. Also, there are 2 rules to this mock draft. First of all, no trades. I don't like trades because they happen. And I'm going to offer some spots where I think they will most likely happen, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to go based off pure draft order. And
Yeah.
this is what I would do as the GM, not what I predict is happening, because there's a lot of things that happen in these that no team would actually do. The Cowboys are going to draft someone's not that good. Let's just be honest. But I'm trying to
Yeah.
help the Cowboys out here. So,
Yeah.
all right. And then my second pick, we got my lovely Washington Commanders, who really need to change their name. Uh, and we were taking Jaden Daniels. It's a different approach from my first mock draft. This one I want to explain just a little bit. They
Yeah.
do need trench help really bad, but they do have 2 second rounders and 2 third rounders. And I think that's where you can invest in the trenches. I don't love that approach, but it's not every day that you get the second overall pick with a Heisman winner sitting there. So take him. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I think this is a new Ben Johnson most likely will be our offensive coordinator and head coach.
Did you
I
see
appreciate it.
that he is almost like sure thing?
That was a questionable source from that tweet that you
Oh,
sent
was it
me.
really? Never mind.
I mean, it wasn't like a reporter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't like the account that actually like tweeted that one out.
That's
But
fair.
even, I mean, it very much feels like we're pursuing him heavily. This is a team that actually is turning a corner now. We have new owners, and that's when you can actually see real change in an organization when owners are willing to invest in the team, and that's what they're doing. We have a good GM. I have faith in him to find good, talented linemen later in the draft. So, I mean, I'm going to put my faith in him to find a good quarterback, and that's going to be Jaden Daniels. He's going to come into Washington, be the answer for the future. And now you have 5 years of cheap quarterback play to rebuild the entire rest of the team and a decent amount of draft capital. Could you trade back? Yes, but probably not too far back just because everyone else is also quarterback hungry. So,
Yeah, this draft has a lot of quarterbacks that are good, but I also do think that there's a lot of quarterback needy teams, which is not usual. I think it's higher than usual, yeah. But explain. I'd love to hear your explanation for why you picked this player versus the next player for
yeah.
your New England pick.
Yeah, so New England's taking Drake May because they also like you can't not address quarterback as the Patriots.
Yeah,
It's just you literally cannot. As much as the Patriots are weird, Patriots can't be too weird right now because Mac Jones is horrible, Bailey Zappi is horrible, and if Mac Jones is going to refine his potential somewhere, it's not going to be in New England
no,
because
he
they
needs to be
hired
winning
in
place.
house. It's not a new
Yeah,
guy, so it's the same problem anyway. So he's not. He's just unfortunately not going to work out in New England, and that's the sad reality of it. Could they trade back as well? Yeah. So the Patriots, they do whatever they want. I hate drafting for the Patriots because I know I'm wrong, whatever I take. But in
yeah.
this situation where you have everybody but the top two quarterbacks, I think you still have to go quarterback. And Drake May's that guy. But to me, I have a really bad feeling about Drake May. I haven't gotten fully into my film yet, so I can't say
He
definitively.
I what I've heard from him, I obviously I don't watch film, but I like see research on he gets a lot of credit for being an accurate quarterback, but I've heard that he's not actually as accurate as he gets credit for. And
Yeah, I don't.
obviously accuracy isn't the biggest thing, but
Yeah,
that's what I've heard so far.
accuracy is something that you can actually fix. So if I had to have one problem, it would probably be accuracy
That's
because
fair.
that you can
Well,
change.
but I think that he's getting a lot of credit for accuracy, and I think people were like, well, I can overlook certain things he doesn't have because he's an accurate quarterback and pro ready quarterback. But I think he's getting too much credit for that.
And I'm afraid he looks like a little boy out there. And I know the eye test isn't like an analyst thing to use, but it's a part of it. And when you're drafting your quarterback of the future, do you want to look out there and think, oh my God, it's me? Because that's what he looks like. He's got a big old helmet on, big old pads on, and no body.
Yeah.
And UNC quarterbacks aren't known for being great. They're not known for their ability to handle pressure. Look at
Yeah.
Sam Howell. He's getting replaced because in the end, he has very deep rooted problems that most likely are going to halt his success.
Yeah.
And that's just the unfortunate truth of it. And I really don't believe in the ability to develop that out of him. I hope he does well. Obviously, I'm rooting for everybody that's drafted, Never want to root against somebody, but especially since it's personal with
Yeah.
Washington, I'm
Yeah.
very, very interested in the quarterback class.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Drake May
I
doesn't feel
mean,
like the answer, but New England's weird. They could figure it out. They can make him an elite quarterback. They're weird.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, we also had a lot of doubts about you and me had a lot of doubts about CJ Stroud coming into this year. And I was wrong about CJ Stroud I mean, CJ Stroud hadn't really shown anything on tape except for that Georgia game of being an elite quarterback. But it just turns out that that Georgia game somehow was more
A
accurate
winner.
to who he is as a quarterback than an entire college career of sample size somehow. So, Drake May could be a good quarterback, but I agree with you. I think he is. I think would have Caleb, definitely Caleb, but then also Jaden Daniels above him.
Mm-hmm. And then that goes to number 4, and we have the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are in such a weird spot organizationally where I don't really know what to make of them fully yet. I think I'll probably do a very deep dive into them and try to rebuild them this offseason just because what's going on in Arizona.
Yeah.
But, they did take Paris Johnson last year. He didn't really work out, and I would like to see them invest in the trenches. Kyler Murray, he's a quarterback who is small. Why let him get hurt? In my
Yep.
opinion, when you have a small quarterback, you have to invest heavily in the trenches. And so you're going to do that with Joe Alt. He's a generational talent. So why would you not take him? How often is it that you have the opportunity to get an absolutely stunning left tackle for 10 to 20 years?
So is he like Penei Sewell level or is he like Rashawn Slater level?
I believe more into the Penei Sewell.
Oh,
But that'll
really?
also come with testing. Like the combine's going to be a big part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
because athleticism is a crucial part that can't be seen on tape, but
Yeah.
he's a really, really good tackle. And
Yeah.
we're comparing him to two guys who are franchise left tackles.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, either of
That's
them are
awesome.
great. I'm just wondering prospect wise. Yeah. Obviously, I'm
He's
gonna
he's a
do.
big deal.
Don't worry, everyone. I know to my two viewers out there, I will be doing a lot more analysis. But we're in NFL season right now. I haven't really been looking at rookies.
It's not even February.
Yeah, but as far as team needs go, I love it.
Yeah.
I have
And
no
then we
problem.
go to a team that has a massive need that they tried to address and it failed somehow so horribly. Uh, they somehow missed with such a talented receiver class that it's pretty depressing.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
could you could pretty much throw a dart blindly and hit a star receiver, but somehow,
yeah, A.T.
somehow,
Perry got more yards.
yeah.
A.T. Perry, he's a seventh rounder from the
I
Saints. The
mean, no,
Saints
but
weren't very
also we were
good.
talking about Green Bay hitting with second rounder Jaden Reed and then like
And
get their sixth
Dontavian Wick.
rounder Dontavian Wicks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Marvin Harrison Jr. feels like he's one of those talents where he's so good that he makes you think, why not just take him?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
I'm very
he's
big on my positional value, but if you have Marvin Harrison Jr., take Marvin Harrison Jr.
well, but also, I mean, wide receiver is a very important position as far as positional value goes. It's not like you're
Mhm.
getting a generational nose tackle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like wide receiver is really important nowadays. And yeah.
Mhm. And that's going to be a crucial part in finding that new identity as the Chargers, because you're kind of entering an era where you're going to lose Eckler most likely. There's a chance you lose Mike Evans, or not Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. These
Yeah.
are guys who have
Or
been
Mike
with the
Williams. You're gonna
franchise.
lose one of
Mike
them.
Williams. Yeah.
Yeah.
This franchise is going to go through a big transitional period. So it's time to kind of start that with a guy that everyone can get behind. Nobody's going to be mad at the Marvin Harrison Jr. pick. Truly. Like no Chargers fan is going to look at this draft and say, we should have taken this guy. We should have taken a corner. No, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's something that I think is going to be important for the fans because they're dissatisfied and rightly so. You should have been in the playoffs. They were still hoping to be in the playoffs right now. Instead, they're looking at what are we going to do with the number 5 overall pick. So I think if Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the board, they're going to run to the podium and take him. They could also trade back, but I do see Marvin Harrison Jr. If he's there, he's a Charger. That goes number 6. We have the New York Giants. The New York Giants in my first one, I had taken Drake May, but that's because Washington didn't take a quarterback, so we did quarterback fall a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like number 6 for any other quarterback right now, so I would have to go with Olu Fashanu. He's once again one of those amazing, nearly generational talents at offensive tackle. He's somebody who just feels like you can't miss with him. Obviously, you can. They miss with Evan Neal somehow, so I'm impressed by that. But
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think the odds are lower that Evan Neal. The odds are higher that he's not good, but also there is kind of like a third, fourth year bump that you
yes,
kind of see from offensive linemen. But right now, I mean, he looks so bad. But I've heard Olu. I forget how to pronounce his name, but I've heard he's pretty good, at least from what I've heard. And Giants and Jets, both New York teams, like have to address offensive line in one way or another this offseason. So
yeah.
I have no qualms with that pick.
And organizationally too, something about the Giants that kind of made me change from the quarterback idea in the first place is that when I looked at Daniel Jones' contract, I was doing some deep diving in some contract stuff, trying to project what Jordan Love might get if you were to sign
Mm-hmm.
this offseason versus
Mm-hmm.
next. Daniel Jones is making $40 million for the next 3 years. So there is a buyout potential next year.
Yeah, I think there's
So
a two.
maybe you take a flyer on a later guy like Joe Milton or Jordan Travis, who I've been hammering all 3 episodes now, but
Mm-hmm.
you would take one of those guys instead of taking a guy who's ready now. Because if you take Bo Nix right now, he's old.
Mm-hmm.
He's been playing since like 1992 at Auburn first, and then he moves over to Oregon. So you can't
Yeah.
take the time with someone like him or like Hendon Hooker. Like you can't take a later, older guy. So you had to take a developmental guy like Joe Milton, like Jordan Travis, where they are a little bit older still, but at least they have that development time. And then next year, if you still have a problem, you're going to have a good pick where you can do that.
Yeah. I had no qualms with that either.
Yeah. So then we go to 7, where we do actually see a quarterback taken. I've made a little bit of a quarterback run at 7-8, but Tennessee takes Michael Penix Jr. I'm a huge Michael Penix Jr. fan, big Michael Penix Jr. fan, and it's a big need. I mean, Tannehill's a free agent. Will Levis was okay, but I don't know if you can call him the answer. Does he get an
Definitely not.
opportunity?
Yeah.
But if I'm the new head coach, if I'm the new GM, if I'm the new everything, I'm looking at a team and going, I'm going to find my quarterback first because this team is a mess because they didn't have a quarterback. They couldn't go on and actually win a Super Bowl when they were good. Now we're
Yeah.
in the decline phase. We can make that a little bit slower and kind of hit that actual up rebuild part sooner if I find a good quarterback. Michael Penix has that opportunity. And I would be excited to see this fit because it's a weird fit. So I love it. But it's
Yeah.
going to take a lot of investment in the offense throughout the entire draft if Tennessee does take an early quarterback.
Yeah. Agreed. Because this offense is just not good in any part,
No.
honestly. I Michael Penix has been good. I mean, he didn't play great in the championship game. He also, I'm pretty sure, was injured in that championship game, and I think if it was a normal game, he probably wouldn't have stuck it out. But no, I like Michael Penix this year. I think he's going to be. I don't know if he's like. I still think there's a tier break between
Yes.
May, even though I don't love May, and Penix. But I think he's going to be a good quarterback, or he has the opportunity at least. That's not
Yeah.
something I said about Will Levis last year.
No. And then that follows suit with Bo Nix, who I take for Atlanta at number 8. Same thing. You have a really big need, although they don't need as many help pieces on offense. So they can kind of not invest as much in the offense. But Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, all those guys be like, yeah, take Bo Nix. Because all of a sudden, Atlanta's going to be airing the ball out. It's going to be the exact opposite of what we've seen for the last 2 years, to the point where it's exciting to just imagine it. And maybe that's why I picked it. But it's an absolutely massive need that I don't think Atlanta can ignore because you're not going to find a free agent that's going to be able to do what I think Bo Nix could do on this offense. And then you also don't have to pay him as much money, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, free agency quarterbacks, it's almost like every single one, except for Tom Brady signing recently. Almost like every single one you get is like not cutting it as far as like what you need to like go deep into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And they're a team that I looked at for a team like Baker Mayfield, but I think they'd rather settle for a young guy because while you're going to pay Bo Nix more than you're probably going to pay Baker Mayfield potentially, because I know the rookie quarterback contracts are getting pretty massive, but I don't know. You take that young quarterback, you have the ability to build a young
Yeah,
core, and you can contend for 5 to 10 years with a younger quarterback, which is something
yeah,
that Atlanta needs.
yeah. And a new coach, it's like you probably aren't on the hot seat after 1 year. Like,
Mm-mm.
if you do it right, you shouldn't. Although their owner is very old, I wouldn't be surprised if he expects them to
Arthur
be
Smith
great.
got 2 years.
Yeah,
Whoever's next will get 2 years.
Arthur Smith should have had 3, but he was a terrible coach. Um, yeah, I have no problem with Bo Nix. I mean, he was great in college. If you look at his PFF grading, I mean, he obviously that's not the end all be all because it does matter who you play, but he was really good in college.
Yeah. I mean, he's a PFF darling.
Yeah,
And then we go to number 9, and you're getting the guy who's going to help Caleb Williams be Caleb Williams, and that's Malik Neighbors. Uh, Hard to argue against it. He's a big drop. He's a really, really talented wide receiver who fell all the way to 9. Take him.
yeah,
I don't think you have to worry about that.
yeah. He could have gone it. I mean, if things go differently, Arizona takes Marv. You could have seen LA, the Chargers take Malik Neighbors there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
not much discussion to do there.
No, I
Number
agree. I
10.
agree. I mean, DJ Moore is not enough. Darnell Mooney, I think, is out. Chase Claypool experience was absolutely terrible. And Cole Kmet is not someone that you want to be your 2. I'm comfortable with him as like a 3 in your offense. But if you go into the season with Moore, Neighbors, and Kmet as offensive weapons, I would be very happy with that as a Bears fan.
Yeah. And then we go to 10. The Jets take a tackle. They take Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Once again, their biggest problem by far was allowing pressure. And since Aaron Rodgers is back, they don't have to worry about quarterback, worry about protecting him. He didn't get protected, and 4 snaps in, you lost him.
Yeah.
So protect him. He's getting older. His Achilles luckily will be very healed, but still Aaron Rodgers, you never know. So just get
Yeah.
him protected. When he's not under pressure, he's amazing. So
Yeah.
just don't let him get pressure.
Yeah. I have no problems with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Then number 11, you got Minnesota taking Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama.
Mm.
Edge is a big need for them. They have a couple. They're strange, but I don't envision them taking a quarterback here. There's no quarterback worth taking. I don't think JJ McCarthy is number 11 worthy.
You would pick a quarterback if there was a quarterback. Like if Bo Nix was here, would you pick Bo Nix?
I think you have a hard time saying no to that.
You would pick, I would not.
I think
But
if Kevin O'Connell looks at Bo Nix's tape and says, I
oh
can work with
wait, we're
that.
talking about sorry, I thought we were talking about Dallas for a second because Dallas Turner that got me all screwed. No, I agree. If Bo Nix was there, I would take him too. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm standing
Sorry.
by Bo that. If Bo Nix is there, run to the podium, take him. You don't have to
Yeah,
sign a $35 million quarterback anymore who is coming off a torn Achilles. You can
yeah,
just air it out. Can you
yeah, I agree.
imagine? Oh my God.
No, that would be good.
But Danielle Hunter, you never really know what's going on with him. It feels like every offseason there's rumors he's gone.
Yeah.
And he's
Two
getting paid a
straight.
lot of money.
Yeah.
And you still have a need, even with Danielle Hunter. So make his heir, let him learn from Danielle Hunter, and just get a good edge in the process. You get Dallas Turner, the best one in the draft class.
Yeah.
And then number 12, we have Cooper DeJean, the white corner out of Iowa, which is important because he'd be the first rounder that was a white corner since like ever or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Since football was real.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to see, but
Since
also
Martin
it's a
Luther
big
King.
need. Yeah. It's a big need. He's talented. I don't think this will actually happen, even if the board fell just like this to this point. Sean Payton's probably going to take an offensive guy. He's probably going to reach and take JJ McCarthy because we all know how John Elway likes his quarterbacks. And we all know what Sean Payton thinks about Russell Wilson. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if they took something weird on offense, but their offense doesn't need as many holes to be filled as their defense does. They let off 70 points. Sure, they made a good turnaround, but corner is a massive hole for them. And I really don't like what they've got going outside of Pat Surtain. So take somebody
Yeah.
who can be opposite of Pat Surtain.
This is one where I would give pushback. I think I would go receiver. I would pick Roma Dunze, but I mean, you know me, I love corners, and it's just as receiver. You can never have too many corners. So
Yeah.
I have no problem. And Cooper DeJean or Dejan or however you pronounce his name. I actually did watch a video going over his scouting and stuff. He looks like a good corner, and not just that. I mean, he was very athletic in like many sports too. Like he was like an 11-second 100-meter runner, which isn't great, but that's really good. For a corner who's pretty big, that's pretty good. He was like a incredible basketball player too. He's got great like jump and agility. Like I have no problems with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got Vegas up next. I'm taking JC Latham, the corner or the tackle out of Alabama. They have a free agent at right tackle with Illuminor. And while I love Illuminor, why pay him when you could just draft a tackle? They're one of those teams that does need a quarterback really, really bad. And they should approach it in the draft instead of free agency. But since there's no quarterback available right now, maybe you trade back. I see this as a good trade opportunity. And maybe you take someone like JJ McCarthy, where you end up taking him in the second round or later in the first round, and you get kind of a steal because you got draft capital and your quarterback of the future. But since there's no quarterback available and there's no trades, you do just take a tackle. You don't have to pay Luminor. You can keep the team cheap. And they have a really good defense. They don't really need to worry about that as much.
Yeah.
So take care of free agency. And then you
Yeah.
don't have to worry and you have a good tackle for a very long time.
Yeah. Got no problems.
Then we go to Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia, going to New Orleans. Kind of the same thing. It's a big need, and they get back to their identity of having an amazing line. Plus, if you had to pick one problem for Derek Carr, it would 100% be pressure. That
Yeah.
man shuts down with pressure. So if you
Yeah.
can keep him away from that, you can keep Jameis Winston away from that when Carr inevitably misses a game or something weird happens. Jameis somehow makes his way onto the field every season. So you know that's happening.
Yep.
You know that's going to happen. You know Carr is really bad with pressure. Why wouldn't you make sure he never sees pressure? Plus, you like running the ball. Go back to your identity of running the ball 40 times a game. because that's when you were good. And I get it, the NFL has changed, but you're not good. It's not like your passing game is winning you games. So take a little bit of a lean into the run game, pick a tackle, pick somebody who's good at mashing around guys, keep away from pressure. You can run the ball more, which takes even more pressure off of Derek Carr. Because while you're paying him a lot of money, you don't want the ball in his hands if the game's on the line, especially not under pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
I would take a tackle here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And then we go to 15, and Brock Bowers' insane fall is finally over. He's not going to be this low in the real draft.
No, absolutely
There's
not.
absolutely no way.
Yeah.
He's so insanely talented, but I always struggle to find where tight end's going to land when they're really good. And he's probably going to be a top 8 to 5 pick in this
Yeah.
draft. He's that kind of good. So good for Indy to get him. He's a generational guy. And then can you imagine Anthony Richardson with Brock Bowers? That terrifies me. I'm really scared of that. They have that running game. They have Anthony Richardson running the ball too, and they have Brock Bowers. No, I'm good. I'm good with not being a free safety who has to crash down against all that.
Yeah.
I'm really okay.
I agree. Brock Bowers is going to go way higher than this, but if he was here, absolutely would pick him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of those picks where it's like, hey, this great guy landed on our laps. Take him.
Yeah.
There's 7 rounds for a reason. Take the really, really good one.
Yeah.
And then we go on to Seattle. I'm taking Jared Verse, I believe. The edge from Florida State. There's no tackles right now, and I kind of have faith in their tackles to get a bounce back year. They both had a pretty rough year last year with Cross and Lucas. But
Yeah,
I
I don't
do
think they
can
need
beat
tackle.
No.
Yeah.
And you can always use more edge. And their skill players, their wide receivers are great. Their corners are great. Maybe you take a corner here to replace a free agent that's leaving. I believe it's Michael Jackson. If I'm not mistaken. I think he's the free agent this offseason. They've won. But even if you lose him, you can draft a corner here. I also think this is a good trade spot if someone like Romo Dunes is available, because he's still available. Sure, he'll get taken in the next pick, but he's still available here, and he's a really good player. If there's somebody drops this far, Seattle should trade. Get that draft capital. You have had a lot because the Broncos don't really know what they're doing, but get more. Why not?
Yeah. I'm good with that. Yeah. Yeah, this feels like a spot where like Seattle should absolutely trade down. Anyway, go on.
Mm-hmm. Then Jacksonville takes Romo Dunes and his fall as well. Jacksonville kind of has always needed a wide receiver one. Ridley didn't really work out for them. He's going to be a free agent. I don't imagine he goes back because he's going to demand more money than he earned, especially in Jacksonville. Maybe some other team goes, we can tap into that.
Yeah.
But Jacksonville can't leave with a good taste in their mouth from him because he had good games and then otherwise forgot he was playing football. So you can't really want him back as your wide receiver one on a long-term deal. So draft it right now.
He's like 29. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I 100% agree with this. If Rome was here, absolutely would take him. And regardless of Rome, would not re-sign Calvin Ridley.
No. And you have to address wide receiver if you don't bring back a different one.
Yeah.
So then we go to 18. We have the Bengals taking a corner, Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. One of my notes here is that he's a talented corner who also already wears orange. So that's just a nice bonus because he already knows what orange looks like on him. So he won't be too mad at it. but he's also a really, really big need that they've had for a long time now. I believe Chidobe Awuzie is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. And then you also just didn't really have amazing corner play this year. So take a new one. Like you said, you can never have too many corners. Playoff teams always have depth at cornerback because someone inevitably is going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Then we go to the Rams. We have Latu. Definitely said that wrong. I apologize to everyone that I've offended. And he's the edge from UCLA. The Rams could use a little bit more youth and talent at the edge position. They're an interesting team where I don't really know what to make of their needs right now. I'll probably change my needs draft to draft.
They honestly have a lot of needs that they could fill with this pick.
Yeah, like they're at a point where they aren't necessarily horrible to given position, but they aren't good at a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's what do you want to take? They can add youth. They can have Latu and Byron Young back-to-back, 2 really good young edge rushers, because they really are really good when they have edge pressure. So
yeah,
get their D-line rolling. Aaron Donald's only getting older and less effective. So find a way to avoid Aaron Donald being frustrated more often by making a good overall defensive line again. You lost Leonard Floyd. Like, you got to come through and replace all these guys. That's going to start with a new edge rusher.
Yeah, I've seen them mocked an edge like every single time.
Yeah. And then Pittsburgh, they have a lot of needs as well. But corner, I feel like, is a good one. Plus, there's a little bit of a drop from the legendary Kool-Aid McKinstry himself. He's a great grab at 20, and they really just need a corner. So take someone like him, and you've got yourself another corner. Joey Porter had an up and down year. So following up with another corner isn't a horrible idea. We saw Seattle do it, and Seattle's secondary is wonderful. So why shy away from that?
Yeah.
Agreed. I know they're a team with a lot of strange needs, but given how the depths have worked out, I think corner's a good spot for them.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to 21 with Miami. They're taking Zerhan Newton. I believe this is an absolutely massive fall. Under my impression, I obviously haven't seen the tape on him. Plus, I don't know if I will because he's from Illinois. It's very hard to find Illinois tape as a guy like me. But he's an amazing DT, and if he's really supposed to be a top 10 pick as a defensive tackle, and you get him at 21, why would you not? Plus, we saw last year their defensive line fell apart, so their team fell apart. So investing in your defense has got to be a priority for them.
Yeah, I agree. They need defense.
And then we go to a team that also needs defense. And Philadelphia takes Terrion Arnold, the other corner out of Alabama. It's a big need. James Bradbury is a free agent and also just sucks at football. So it takes somebody who doesn't. And now you have youth at the position. You have Keely Ringo there as well. It's a pretty good team that if the youth comes together and has a good season, you can actually find yourself elite again really soon. This draft is going to be crucial for Philadelphia being able to elongate their ability to contend instead of falling behind a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, of course, 23, we have Houston and their pick that they inherited from the Browns, and they picked Jordan Morgan, the tackle out of Arizona. I love building the trenches, and I see a little bit of a weakness at offensive tackle for them. Laramie Tunsil's only getting older. I don't know how long you can forever rely on him. Plus, I don't like the right tackle play necessarily. So invest in a guy who's going to keep your franchise quarterback healthy. Because you saw him get concussed, all of a sudden they almost fell out of the playoffs entirely. If it weren't for the Jaguars, maybe they do miss it. If it weren't for the Jaguars and Tyler Goodson dropping a pass, the Texans aren't in the playoffs at all.
Yeah.
So get you some pressure off of CJ Stroud. Let him keep just cooking defenses through the air. That's going to start. Plus, you can get a better run game. Who doesn't like a good run game?
Yeah, and you with a defensive coach, you're probably going to lose Bobby Slowick this year. I think tackle is a very realistic thing that they'll probably do.
We have another tackle coming on the board at 24 with Dallas. They take Troy Fautanu. He's a tackle out of Washington. He's another really good tackle. Plus, they didn't have any really good offensive tackle play. Tyler Smith turned into a guard like everyone expected. And sure, you can say, cool, we got a good guard. But as a first rounder, that's disappointing. And Tyron Smith's getting really old. Injuries have kind of plagued him lately. And he's an absolutely elite tackle, but unfortunately, you can't rely on that forever.
No, you have to plan for him to be gone at some point. The same way that I think Philadelphia eventually has to plan for Lane Johnson maybe being done soon. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. When he's approaching free agency, I think it's time.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we're ending the tackle run with another one for Green Bay because, like we said earlier, David Bakhtiari is never here. Why rely on him? So you're going to take a new tackle. You're going to take Graham Barton. This is, I've definitely done some reaching with these last three tackles. That's because I love to build the trenches, and I think those are the most important picks that you can make for this team. You can have Love protected because while he's amazing under pressure, that's something that he's really succeeded in by the end of the year, you don't want him to be under pressure. Because when he's under a lot of pressure, he's going to do those things where he throws interceptions. Because he's not Aaron Rodgers, he's Brett Favre. He's going to have the interception problem. So you have to limit that by limiting his pressure plays. And then we go to 26, Tampa Bay. I'm taking Ennis Rakestraw, the corner out of Mizzou. I really don't know what they're going to do right now. They have a lot of free agents leaving. So depending who they decide to keep and who do they decide to let walk, that's going to change everything about them. So I don't envision this pick saying sturdy at all.
I
It's
mean,
very
even
much
if they
dependent on who they
keep their
sign.
players, I think corner is a need anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there could be a bigger need by the time the draft comes around, but corner is always a need, especially for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you take one now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can drop down to 27, which is Arizona's pick that they have from Houston, I believe, actually. And
Yep.
it's Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU. Hollywood Brown's a free agent. And even if he stays, which, I think he's shown some interest that he wants to, I believe. And the Arizona Cardinals are working on an extension for him. I do think you still need wide receiver on that team, even with Brown, because you have a guy you're paying a lot of money to play quarterback for you. You've already invested in the trenches. Now invest in a wide receiver and make your offense really the scary part of your game.
Yeah.
You have a defensive coach who's going to be able to find some talent in the later rounds and scheme up a good defense. So make the offense not your worry, and you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I think Arizona needs to take a receiver or at least sign a receiver. So I love this pick, honestly. I would have been okay if they picked Marv earlier too, but Brian Thomas is a really good receiver as
I
well.
wouldn't be surprised if they really took Marv, but
Yeah.
Joe Alt is so good. And
Yeah.
you're probably not going to find a tackle at 27, whereas you're definitely going to find a wide receiver at 27.
Yeah.
Just based off the draft class.
Yeah.
We hit Buffalo, Braylon Trice. I'm taking the edge out of Washington. This is another team with a few key needs because of injuries, especially. So prepare. I believe AJ Epinesa is old, and Von Miller obviously did not find himself again. So this is a team that needs to invest in the trenches now because it's time. Greg Rousseau has absolutely stepped up, but you need a lot of edge pressure, especially with the injuries that they keep sustaining. So you take one now.
Yeah. Ebenezer is not too old. I think you looked that up too. He's only like 25. But I mean,
Oh my God. I don't know why I thought he was like 30.
No, honestly, I have some players they just feel older. But even if you have Epineza, even still, like Miller leaving, and he wasn't as good. Von Miller was not as good this year. Like you have to have a contingency plan at some point. So I think Edge is a very likely way that they go.
And then we have the 4 picks that aren't fully decided, but
Yeah.
just quickly through them because we don't really know how the order is going to go. Kansas City, I taken Troy Franklin, absolutely talented wide receiver out of Oregon. They have a huge need, and then you just get Bo Nix, but better with Patrick Mahomes. So I love the fit. He's definitely going to be productive in that offense.
He is good.
I don't
Yeah.
envision that being much of a problem for Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
Then we can go to Detroit. I'm taking Chris Braswell, the edge out of Alabama. This is a team that I definitely could see myself changing my mind on later, but they don't really have an amazing edge. Like Zach Pascal is good, but I'd much rather see them get a solid number 2 after Hutchinson because
Yeah.
all the pressure's on him. You can just double team him and then you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And with a secondary that's up and down, very much so, but they've invested in and it's very young, take some pressure off of them by limiting the time.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to San Francisco with Kieran Amegaji. I believe that's how I say it. The tackle out of Yale. First of all, Yale, love it. Just fits for my mind that he goes to San Francisco.
Yeah.
But also tackles, I think their biggest need. They have a
Definitely.
couple that they need to
Yeah.
address, but I think tackle's the biggest. They never really had an amazing right tackle, and they got worse since last year with Mike McGlinchey. So replace it.
Yeah. I think we go either tackle or corner.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
I do think that's the fact. And Chris Braswell is much better than the first available corner that's left. So taking an edge is never a bad idea. Then, of course, we have Baltimore with number 32, and they do the most Baltimore thing of all and take Byron Murphy II out of Texas. Truly, this is a very Baltimore pick. You take a good guy who fell to you and take advantage of it. Now your trenches are good. You can let Justin Madubuike walk, which is insane to do because he's so